What's up, guys? This is Mike DePottey, and that is the one, the only Demore Green this morning on a beautiful Saturday. And just a little backdrop for what we're doing here. In my quiet time, a couple times throughout this crazy, chaotic quarantine time, I have felt like, I've gotten something from the Holy Spirit that maybe might be worth sharing with folks. And I've kind of been sharing it with a very small circle, like my Freedom group or my wife or maybe a friend or two here and there. But there's been this desire for a while to actually, put it on Facebook, because that's what this is about. I don't believe in that this quarantine means we have to be isolated. And the fact that Dee's on here is the coolest part of this, because actually we've not talked about this at all. We have not had a single conversation about the idea of doing this. But both of us kind of felt like before now, even and especially now, maybe the idea of some kind of podcast or a quick word to share or whatever, we're not going to really try and identify what it is, but we don't even know what it is really right now. We just kind of feel like God's up to something. Yeah. So because we feel like God's up to something, this morning is our first attempt at being obedient to share and maybe encourage you. So we're going to call this right here, just because we like D's, we're going to call this the Digital Devo with D and DePottey. And so this morning, I was lit on fire. So without further ado, this is episode 1 of the Digital Devo Online, and to maybe help encourage you through this crazy quarantine, and we'll see what happens. So good morning, D. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I had a great morning. Got to hang out with my baby girl, Judah. Let the wifey sleep in a little bit. I'm waiting on breakfast still, so my stomach a little growly, but I'm good.
Well, that's D rubbing in his face that I don't have a baby. So thanks for that. We start with a little discouragement, on my behalf, and then we go from there. So anyways, guys, this morning I was thinking, and I am reading about, first of all, the 1-year Bible. If you haven't gotten one of those before, I can't recommend it enough. Also, I just want to take a specific moment to thank Pastor Jake for encouraging all the leaders at the Orange Park campus to do that. Because he challenged all of us. He's like, all of you should do this. And we were like, okay, we've done like a 20 or 30 day commitment before, but he's like, I want a year out of all of you, and I just love that about him and his invitation into putting us in like, no matter what, for a year, we're committing right there on that day, the first day of the year, like we're going to make at least 10 or 15 minutes for God, no matter what, outside of our other study time. So it's been a tremendous blessing to me. But this morning, I'm going to start, forgive me for looking down, I'm going to start with the message, this long novel I sent to my Freedom group, because that's really where it started. And then literally, I want you guys to know this was not prepared at all. D has no idea what I'm about to say. And the reason why I thought of D is I really trust D, and he's, for his age, he's incredibly wise. And I just wanted to hear what his reaction was. Maybe he could build upon it. And I felt like, again, it was a Holy Spirit thing. So this literally got thrown together in like 20 minutes. I want you guys to understand. I texted D and was like, can you jump on a Zoom call? And he was ready to go right away. So anyways, without further ado, this week we're reading in Joshua, and that was pretty cool. But we got to Luke, and Luke 15 is the scripture this week. And the thing about Luke 15, we all know this. A lot of this scripture it's 3 parables that Jesus is telling, and what he's telling is he's telling the parable of the lost coin, the lost sheep, and then the prodigal son. So in my mind, I tried to do alliteration sometimes. So this is my journal. In case you're wondering, the only thing I've got here is my notes, my journal, and the Bible on my laptop. So that's all I've got. And so anyways, I was thinking, like, he's talking about the 3 things that are lost. He's talking about coin. He's talking about some cattle, and he's talking about a child. Okay. So back then, if we were to rank things in importance, those would have been the 3 most important things to people, which actually I find it so funny that he does it. He first brings up the cattle. He second brings up the coin. And then lastly, he addresses the child, which I don't know if there's ever been a better illustration of saving the best for last. And that wasn't in my notes at all. I just thought of that right now as we're talking, like, holy cow. Like, he addresses first, like, the cattle, like, which at the end of the day, of course, is a metaphor and a parable for, a person, which is, of course, incredibly important. But he's using a physical example of the cattle, which is people's livelihood back then. Yeah. And then their coin, which is always applicable. And then he's talking about his child, which, of course, should and always be our most precious possessions, or gifts, whatever you want to call them, not possessions. But anyways, so I'm listening to this, and I just kind of said to the guys, I said, right now, some of us might have missed a day in the Bible. We might have missed, even some people listening to this from Orange Park, we might have missed a day in the 1 year Bible plan. Okay. We might have missed a freedom session virtually. We might have missed a couple of face-to-face interactions we would normally have if we didn't have this crazy Corona thing going on right now. Okay. That is the facts. We might have done those things. We might have forgot to pray as much. But the truth of the matter is that those who find themselves lost, okay, which to me is a funny pun, like find yourself lost. But anyways, like remember what God says about those. And then just Luke 15:4, what man of you having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the one that is lost until he finds it? And aside from the incredible importance that this puts on, no matter what circumstances we're facing, we still have to be looking for the lost right now, because like, I guarantee you, if you're a farmer and your only livelihood is sheep, it doesn't matter if there's a Corona thing going on or not. If you got one sheep missing, you got to have that sheep back, because that's just how it goes. You can't lose any. Right now, we can't lose anything. We've got to absolutely steward what we have, no question. But here's something that really got me. Okay, this is the thing. If you, and I said this very clearly to the Freedom guys, I said, understand something. And this is really where I think Dee might enjoy this or not. We'll see. Even if you aren't chasing him, he's chasing you.
Yeah.
Even if you aren't chasing him, he is chasing you. Understand this. The identification of being lost or found is not a commentary on your physical location. It is an assessment of your current spiritual orientation. That's what it is. And so just to make that really clear, again, the designation or the identifier of being lost or found right now in this season, that is not, okay, a commentary on your physical location. It is an assessment of your spiritual orientation. Yeah. Now, here's what I get really fired up about. Speaking of orientation, okay, you know how when you're holding your phone like this, like you're just looking at it like this, and you find some picture or something, and it's too wide to look at like in this mode right here. So most all of us, we got to pull that options menu down. We got to click the little button there and adjust the orientation of our screen. So we got to quickly change from landscape to, or from portrait to landscape. Okay.
Yeah.
And here's some facts about that change really quick, because I think it's so applicable. One, the picture never changed. The picture never changed. Only our perspective of the picture changed. In other words, it wasn't anyone's fault but yours that you weren't getting the whole picture. Okay, the picture was there the whole time. The only thing that changed is your perspective. And I think this is so perfect, Dee, because the reality is God doesn't change. His plan has not changed. His purpose. The only thing that changes in crazy times is our ability to see it. That's it. That's the only thing that changed. And then the other thing that just screamed at me was that change didn't occur until you chose to make it. You know what I'm saying? You could have sat there all day long looking at the picture just like this. You could have sat there all day long. You could have stayed there looking at that picture, getting part of it. Auto rotate feature is completely locked. You haven't adjusted anything in your life. You are locked down. The phone is not going to make you change the screen. The change was initiated by you and fulfilled by the function that the creator of the phone preset for you to utilize. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how on earth do we miss stuff like this? What I'm telling you is that it might feel like an oversimplification of life here, okay, when we're talking about just a picture on a dadgum phone, all right? But I'm here to tell you that unless you initiate, God will not activate. Mm-hmm. And also the point about that activation is it was predetermined. Like the creator of this device gave me the option long ago, long before this picture ever was in my mind, that I had the option of viewing it this way or getting the whole picture. That was done. And that is exactly how God works, man. And the thing is, if you want to stay locked in your current position, you are free to do so. And if you are in a position right now, D, if anybody hearing this is in a position of fear and worry and anxiety and stress and depression and maybe crazy physical diagnoses, maybe just letting everything be derailed that they were working towards, you are free to stay there. But if you just so happen to recognize what the current optics are, the thing that you were looking at right now might just not be the entire picture. That news feed you're looking at, that diagnosis from experts, what a politician says, what China says, what anybody says, that might not be the entire picture, the entire blessing, but you invite the creator to put you through a process that was predetermined. You might just start seeing the blessing in your life when you get a bigger glimpse of the whole picture.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what started all of this. And I thought to myself, I really feel like this was a huge wake-up call for me. Got to be more intentional. And I was like, I wonder what D's got to say about that.
Yeah, I think, man, like, first off, I didn't think about it until you said it, but and you said the whole, like, even when we're not chasing him, he's chasing us, like, starting there.
Yeah.
I think that's one, it's a beautiful picture, because I started to think about actually, like, how true it is, because when the son came home, and this is a little later on, but when the son came home, I was thinking about the prodigal son. When the son came home, his father, once he saw him coming, his father ran to him.
Yeah.
So in order for him to run to him or see him coming, he had to have been looking for his son every single day, waiting for him to come home. Ooh. And, like, I know for me personally, obviously, and I know you have a crazy story too, but, like, church has not always been my priority. Like, God has not always been my focus. And so, like, that's why I love, like, Jesus, like, just his message in general, that if I just take my one step, he'll take the rest of them for me. You know what I'm saying? Like it only takes 99 plus one, like, it only takes 1 to equal 100. And so if I do my 1%, God will do the 99%. And I just love that picture. And it is true too. Like, it's based on how we see things. Like, I mean, I grew up in a household of fear, in the sense of, like, whether it's fear of someone kicking in my door, whether it's a fear of, like, not having something to eat, whether it's a fear that my brother wouldn't have diapers. And so, like, constantly, like, it's always been a fear. But it was my perspective when that started to shift, and when I started to see things in a different dimension, and see things in God's point of view. I remember when we were at ARC in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know if you've ever been to Birmingham, but it's real hilly. It's real hilly. And so I was sitting, and I was just by myself, and there's thousands of people, but I decided to go by myself. And I was just sitting on top of the hill, and I could see the cars coming from both sides. I could see something that they couldn't see. So, like, if there was a car coming, and, like, basically I could help prevent an accident. Everything looked smaller for me because I was looking from the top. So I can see the direction someone was going. I could see what would happen before it actually happened because of my position and where I was sitting. And so, like, always remembering that God sits at that point of view, that we are just ants, and, you know, like, he can see everything. But it does take us to really be obedient. Like you said earlier, like the whole podcast thing, man. Like, you know, like, me personally, just the insecurity aspect of, like, who really cares what I got to say?
Right.
You know, who really cares what a 23-year-old who doesn't know anything about life has to say? But it came to it's just a beautiful thing. And so our perspective, when we change our perspective, that's when we will truly search our purpose. Because if we're not careful, if our perspective is tainted, that's what leads to comparison and seeing other people's lives and seeing other people's journeys and expecting. My boy, Pastor Keneal, now, he told me one time, he said, it was years ago, and he was talking about lifting weights, and how when he first got in there was this guy who was a senior who could clean like 2 something, right? And that looked like a lot to him, but that was that guy's ceiling. And so obviously, imagine if he would have compared himself in 9th grade, he probably never amounted to be anything. But because he kept going, he had 4 more years to, you know, surpass him. Mm-hmm. And so, like, we got to be careful not to compare our basement to somebody else's roof. And because a lot of times that's what it is. Like, you know, we can look at, you know, Pastor Stephen, and not that I do, but, like, look at Pastor Stephen Furtick and look at his amazing church and be like, man, I'm sitting on a Zoom thing and probably, you know, 10 people will watch it. I don't know. Right. But I'm 20. He's been doing this almost literally more than half my life that I've been alive. He's been doing his thing. And so it's an amazing thing to me. But yeah, that's kind of like where I see that. I mean, that's a beautiful devotion. I think a lot of people need to hear that for sure. For sure.
Awesome, bro. I just love what you said about the hill, man. Like, that's so true, because, like, first of all, I like just one of the biggest things that stuck out to me about this whole thing is the fact that it's a choice.
Yeah.
Like, the way that you saw your life before, the way that you decided that your viewpoint around everybody else at that particular conference,
Yeah.
like all of it is the same theme. And it was a choice. You had to, and what was so crazy to me about that hill thing, bro, you made a choice to go up the hill and get a different perspective in that situation, right?
Yeah.
You made a choice to go up the hill. You made a choice to do something uncomfortable. You made a choice to, I mean, maybe it was a real tall hill. Maybe there's some pain involved. And I know that the hill is not the important thing, but you made a choice to elevate.
Yeah.
Okay. You made a choice to elevate. And then when you got there, you had a different perspective and you felt like God was opening your eyes a little bit in that moment in the physical. And to me, that is so unbelievably applicable to what we're talking about. Like, you are choosing to stay right here. You're choosing to stay scrolling. And that's really the biggest takeaway for me this morning is the decision to be locked in where you're at now, the decision to not change your settings, reset, the decision to not have the opportunity to see things that God intended for us to see is a decision. And if there's anything anybody takes away from this morning, is make a different choice if that's the choice you've been making. And because God doesn't say the same things about us in our situation that culture and the world does. So.
Yeah, because you think about it too, like you think of numbers, right? Like when they went to the to take over the promised land, they said we looked like grasshoppers in their eyes. The enemies never said they were grasshoppers. They never once, but they looked at themselves as smaller than or lesser than. And but you had two killers who were like, no. Joshua and Caleb was like, no, you got me messed up, man. Like I ain't, like I'm not tripping. And like if we had faith like dogs, and the reason I say dogs is because obviously with my job I encounter a lot of dogs, and bigger, small, like they're like they don't care, like they're like like they're coming at you. And so but if we had that kind of faith to like whoever walks on my territory, whoever like the way I see things, I may be small but I'm big because of who I serve.
Yes.
And I would think to myself, it's not who I am, it's whose I am.
That's right.
I'm chosen by God, but I'm only chosen because I chose to be chosen. I allowed my life to be used by Him, though I was 17 years late. But I stepped into my purpose, and it took me to lose someone real close to me before I realized that. But I think, look at, for instance, if you took off your glasses right now, you may see me a little different. But but it helps you see clearer. And so I think a lot of times. A prayer for us as Christians is maybe we need to pray for some we need to change our vision, but in order to change our vision, we might need new prescriptions. And so
that's right.
Because I can't read, I can't read because I need glasses, but I choose not to wear them and I choose not to get them. And so I read the same page for like 20 minutes, not even kidding, because but maybe if I were to get what I needed, then I'd be able to see things a little differently. And so I think it's good though, man.
Yeah. And one last thing about that, you just kind of made me think about the illustration I gave with the phone screen. I think that we can stay locked in right here in this orientation where we're positioned, and we can pray and we can cry out and we can feel desperate and we can ask friends and we can blah, 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 all of those things, and be like, God, just change the picture. Just change the picture for me, God. Or you can look at that page without your glasses, which is silly. Get some glasses, bro. But you can look at that page over and over again, and you can be like, God, just please change the page. Help me understand the page. And in your example, God's like, put your glasses on. They're right next to you. Yeah. And for my example, like God's like, just flip the phone.
Yeah.
Flip the way you're viewing it. The picture's there. And so I think this has been awesome, guys. Really a quick word. If you thought that this was encouraging, if you thought this was cool, if you thought it was funny, or if you thought it was awful, we'd like for you to let us know. Give us a comment or share this or drop us a private message if we said something heretical or something. But anyways, this has been the first installment, and I hope of many, and I hope to get a lot of absolute killers like D on the line here to hear what they have to say about what God's doing in every one of our lives. And so this has been episode 1 of Digital Devos. This episode featured DePottey and DeMore. Have a good day, guys.